could have known. One beyond my wildest dreams. Maybe that one could have carried me to streets of gold. Things aren't always as they seem. Looking back on all the chances that I missed, some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist. I wonder what would change. I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known, would have kept me from the one I had today. Times gone by, I've traded blackbird into play. I thought my memories would end. One street over is now 1,000 miles away. When I close my eyes, I'm back to where I've been. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known, would have kept me from what I had today.
Oh, good morning, good morning. What you doing, Robertson County? This is 1100 WSGI. Let's go ahead and turn the guys off. I got Senator Kerry Robertson in the house. This is, again, 1100 WSGI. This is one street over. I'm U-Turn Laverne. And yes, talking to the senator off mic here as y'all are kind of coming on social media and watching, and everybody's like, turn the mics on, Laverne. Let's hear from Senator Roberts this morning. And number one, oh my goodness, I was not expecting to see you this month because, you know, your sweet daughter was married on Saturday. So the actual time that you normally come in would have been last Monday. So I knew that was not happening because that was the Monday before the wedding. But we had a fifth Monday. So I told Janet, I said, well, I said, Kerry and I talked about maybe having him come in on that fifth Monday, but I said, I don't even want to ask him. Because I knew it had to be just crazy, but here you are.
Well, just to add to the craziness, it's not just that Nora got married; it's that she got married at home, and that's the extra bit of crazy because we're right in the middle of, we're having new siding, new roof, new
renovation.
Yeah, and it's not done. I mean, finally on Friday we told the people who were working, you got to come back, and it's like when stuff like that's going on, people want to talk to you. They've got to ask you questions. Come look at this. This isn't the way we thought it would be because it's an old house.
Yeah.
It's like you take something off and there's a surprise. What's underneath?
Yeah.
So it was just a lot of questions, and finally we just had to cut it off. And Diane made the wedding dress, and so
here at Revive Our Hearts, we encourage you to be
intentional
about your relationships.
I will laugh and say that,
and to look to passages like
when Nora got engaged,
as a
she asked her about making the
older
wedding
women
dress, and
teaching
Diane's
younger
very
women.
talented and
Let
gifted
me
in
read
that way.
verses
But
3 through 5 of
but
Titus
she
chapter
doesn't,
2.
and just
The
so
Apostle
nobody
Paul
calls and
says
asks her to
older
make a wedding
women
dress.
are to be reverent in behavior,
It will cost you dearly.
not
Don't.
slanderers
I
or
mean,
slaves
because
to
she's
much
at a
wine.
point where it's like,
They're to teach
okay, if
what
I
is
throw
good,
out a high enough
and
number,
so
maybe they'll
train
say
young
no.
women
Yeah,
to love their
exactly.
husbands and
Yeah.
children.
But she
Be
really doesn't
self-controlled,
like doing it
pure,
unless she designs
working
it.
at home,
Yeah.
She doesn't want to
kind,
just so people ask her, will you make a bridesmaid's dress? And it will be perfect. It will be flawless. But the answer for her is
we've encouraged you
no,
to
she
have
doesn't want to make
spiritual
things.
mothers,
If somebody
daughters,
wants
and
her to
sisters.
design it,
That means doing
she'll
life in the
design it and make
context
it,
of
but she doesn't
community
just want
with
to make things.
like-minded
Well, in this
women.
case, Nora
It
designed
means
it.
finding an older
And,
woman that you can learn from.
It was
and it means
it was
becoming
Nora's
that
design,
older
and so
woman
she
for
said
someone
she
else.
would do that.
And if
And
you're
my comment
thinking,
was,
that's a great idea,
well, y'all,
but is it
you know, and
really
the thought
possible?
was that
Our guest
she
today
would
is going to
help
show us
Nora
it's not only
make it.
possible, it works.
and
it's a joy
I don't know.
for
I may
both
have
the
this wrong.
mentor
I
and the
mean, I don't
person
know what
being
they
mentored.
ultimately decide on,
Nancy
but
Lindgren is
Diane
the
ended
founder
up
and
doing it
CEO
because
of More
Nora was in
Mentoring.
school, and
She calls herself a simple,
Get ready for
ordinary
the wedding.
woman who
Yeah,
loves,
so Diane
serves,
ended up
and
doing it, and
believes in an
my
extraordinary
comment like
God.
6 months ago was
She's
just make sure
passionate
the
about
week of the
mentoring,
wedding you're not up till
something
like
she's done
3 o'clock in the
faithfully for
morning,
over 20
finishing
years.
the wedding
In
dress.
fact,
Was
she
she?
wrote a book titled
Yeah, she
Mentoring
was.
Made
I
Real.
think they sewed the
Her
last
hard
of the.
not
husband
to, 'cause
Mark
there's like,
live
oh, I
in
could just do
Fairplay,
this. I could just
Colorado.
do this. I know.
They have 4
And then
grandchildren and a
to
well-worn
make matters worse,
welcome mat at their front
air
door.
conditioning went out.
She gave this message in a breakout
And
session at our most
and
recent
so
True
we've been
Woman
looking
conference.
at
Let's
a
listen together.
comprehensive. We're redoing
I want
part
to
of
shift
what
the
we're doing with the
mentoring
house is
mindset
we're
that most
redoing
of us have
all
in
of
our
the air.
heads
It
that we
just
can't do
the whole
this.
thing needs to be done.
Like
It's got a very
mentoring is too
inefficient
big.
heating system.
It's too
so
much. We don't have
we were
enough
doing
to
all
offer.
that,
So
and
many of us feel like
it
we're
was
not
too
qualified,
complicated
we're unworthy. All of those
to
thoughts,
try
and it
and
starts
work
right
it
here
out
in our
and-
mindset. And I
and
want to
get
make a
it done
shift in
before
that
the wedding.
and make it doable.
And
that we
it's
can
the old
do this.
style,
We are
so
equipped.
the
God has
Freon
given us
cost you
what
$1
we
million
need.
bucks, and
I've seen that in my own life, and I
so
want to
we
see that
were
in your
able
own life
to,
too. And so I just want to hear from
put
you. How
something in
many
there
of you
that
have
was
had a mentor in your
used,
life
which
that
I
has had a
don't
great
recommend,
impact
but it
on
was
you?
just what
I
we-
love
it
it.
was the only way
Many
we could
hands
get it
going
done.
up.
It was that or
Just
window
shout out a
units.
few
Yeah.
words
And
that
at,
you would
on a
use to
150-year-old
describe
house,
that
160-year-old
mentor.
house, you
And
just
we can
don't
just hear what are
pop
what
open
are
the
some of
windows
the character
and
qualities
put in
that
window
you've seen in her that
and
have
they're
made such an
big, they're
impact on
4-foot
you.
wide
Just shout 'em
windows, and
out.
it just doesn't work that way. So
Mother, a spiritual mother.
so we got through all that, and then
Grace.
you know, like,
Unconditional
and
love.
she
Challenging. I love it. That's
it was just,
right.
and it was the hottest. You know, it was
Prayer
100.
warrior.
27
That's
degrees
my
on
passion, too.
Saturday,
I love
so
it. We
it
could
was
list
just
a whole
hot.
lot of attributes, couldn't we?
Was the
I've
wedding
had women
outside?
in my
Yeah, it
life
was.
that have been
And-
the
and
same
that-
for me.
that was
and
a,
how many of you have been that mentor
that
to somebody?
was,
Are most of you mentoring right now? Okay, fewer hands.
kind of one of
But I
those
see them, and so I'm so
things where
thankful for each one of you that are
and
doing
I don't want
that
to go into
now.
these details,
I
but
want
we're
all of
building
us in this room to
something
have a
in the backyard
passion
where we
to
could
do
have
this.
had it,
We can
and
do this. It is
we
simple,
knew
and it is
several
so
months ago it
powerful,
wouldn't be
and it
done,
is so
and
needed in
she
this
could
world
have,
today.
switched to a
You know,
wedding or stayed
12
there, and she
years
just said,
ago,
"No, I want to get married
I
at
met a
home.
young
This is
mom
where I grew
in
up,
my
and
neighborhood.
It's
And
where I
we
want to
met
get
at a
married."
block party,
And
and we just stood there and began to
I think
talk, and we
probably,
connected. There was just something about her I just loved, and
I mean, it's an
somehow she
old house,
connected
so
to
it's
my
like a
heart.
legacy house,
And
and I
soon
think
after
the
that
kids look
time
at it
together,
like,
she sent
you know,
me a
it's just
note in
gonna
the
stay in the
mail, and it
family,
said,
and
"Will you be
it's where
my
she wanted to get
mentor?"
married, so
And I'm like,
and,
what
you know,
does
they're
that
young. It's
mean?
like,
And
that's
what are
awesome.
your
So what? Well,
expectations?
you know,
Yeah,
I didn't
exactly.
feel like
to the
I had a lot
90-year-old
to
grandma,
offer.
you
I
know.
was kind of
Well,
doing
yeah.
something
But-
virtually,
but everybody did
no
fine,
one had
and
ever
it was,
said
you know,
those words
it
to
was-
me, and I didn't see
everything
them
was
written
decorated,
out.
and
so,
then
you know, you
a
first kind of go to
thunderstorm
fear, but then I went
came
to the Lord,
through and just
I just said, God,
just
do you
about
want
blew
me to
everything
do this?
away,
And will you
and,
show
but
me
it
what
also
looks
cooled
like
it down
to
a
do
little
it?
bit.
And
But
I
then
felt
in
like he was
typical
saying,
middle
say
Tennessee
yes.
fashion,
Just
then
say
the sun
yes.
came
and so I
out
did, and I
and
invited her over to my
humidity
house.
turned everything into a sauna.
And of course, I brought my stack of
And-
Bible
and then
studies and
the,
books, and I thought she would just
another
want to go through
line of
something like
storms
that. Well,
came
Sarah
through,
showed
and
up,
this
and
one,
she
this
didn't want
one, the
all
first
that.
one was like,
She
I don't
had
know
a
about
lot of
this. The
burdens
second
on
one
her
was,
heart.
thank you,
Her
Lord.
oldest
This
daughter was
reception
5
won't go on
years old,
forever.
going off to
Well, there you
kindergarten.
go.
She
It
was
kind of
so
ended.
nervous.
Yeah,
She
it
was
puts
so
it to your
scared.
end.
She just
doesn't
Well,
it?
and we
wanted to hear
knew. I
how
mean, we could
handled it.
see it was
We
an
had
hour
4
away, and
kids
you
and
could
6
see the
years, and,
lightning on the
I was a
horizon,
little
and you knew it
further down
was,
the road
you knew it
than
was
she
coming.
was, and
So
I just shared my heart
it
with
was,
her
it hurried
of
things
how I
along. So
did
it
it, and
worked
we
out.
talked
Well,
about
I was
God,
thinking
we
about you
prayed
guys right.
together.
We were actually down
And
in
I left
Columbia
that
because it was
time
the Tennessee
watching
Radio
her
Hall of
eyes
Fame
light
induction.
up so much.
And they
Like,
inducted
that
Phil
meant so
Valentine
much
and then
to
my
her.
friend Annabelle
We didn't
Gay.
have to do an
And
in-depth
so I had
book
to be
study.
there.
I
And
needed to
so
show
I
up
was there.
Evidently, I
and
have not heard
honest
that name.
and let
She's
her
precious,
be real
and
honest.
yeah.
And
Well,
we had
she
the most
works here
amazing
with the
time together,
Connection.
and that was the beginning
She's
of a
part of Main Street
beautiful
News and all of
relationship with
that.
this
So
Sarah.
she's doing,
and that
yeah.
really
No
kind
way.
of
Well,
launched
she's not
me
here, but she
into
does.
a ministry
She does
that
like
God was
she'll
calling
do
me to start,
podcasts
a
and social
ministry
media stuff
that
for
happened
them.
a few years
And-
later.
and she's
as I
still
was sitting
very
on my
deep in
couch
country
just
music,
one day
'cause,
on
I
a
mean, she
Saturday
knows
morning. I'll
everybody.
never forget
And
it.
I'm truly
It was as
does.
if
I mean,
God
she'll tell
just
stories
showed
about
up,
talking to
and
Johnny
he was sitting
Cash
right
and-
next to
I
me
mean,
on that
we've been in
day, and
radio
he
in Nashville.
asked me
She
to
got here a
start
few
the
years
mentoring ministry.
behind
I mean,
me,
specifically
but our
gave
our
me
careers
details
kind of
the
ran
plan, and I'm
alongside
writing
each
down
other.
as
But she was in
fast as I
country
can
music.
in
I
my
was in
journal,
news, talk, and
and I'm
rock.
asking
So I don't
him
know
questions.
anybody.
What does this look
I know
like? How do I
nobody.
do this?
She knows.
And he's
She knows
speaking to
everybody.
me
You know,
within every
and
cell of my
first
body.
name
I
basis.
know
So it's
God
always been kind of
has met
fun
me
to
on
listen
my
to
couch.
Devin.
So
tell
why
her
And it
stories.
was
why was that in
powerful.
Columbia?
And so I just said, Lord,
The
if you're calling
venue,
me to
they had
start
a
this
venue
ministry
down
called
there,
More,
and they had been
because
in
my
the
Bible
past.
was open to
Pamela
Ephesians
Furr is
3:20.
actually the
Now
president
to
of our
him
of
who is
our
able
organization.
to do
And there's a
immeasurably
huge
more
board.
than
There's
all
like,
you could
I don't
ask
know,
or
there's like
imagine,
20 people across
according
the
to
state.
his power,
Because it's not
those
just
that
we
work
think about
within
this
us.
area.
To
Right,
him
it's
be all
statewide.
glory in the
State.
church and in Christ
And
Jesus forever
so,
and
I mean,
ever.
it's just
Amen.
fascinating to hear these
And so
stories of
that
these
was
small
his
town
word
radio
going
stations
out
and these
and
people that are
speaking
just
to me, and I
iconic in
wanted
their,
women
in
to
their, in
experience
their
more.
community.
More
And
of him,
in Memphis
more
and I mean
peace,
Knoxville and
more
Chattanooga
fullness
and
of
all
life,
of the
because I
people.
was
You know,
around
it's just
a lot of
fascinating.
women
Well,
that really were feeling
the guy
empty
from Sun
and
Records
anxious
was
and
inducted
fearful
the
and
other night. Of course, he's
worried, and I
in
wanted them
already
to
in the
experience
Rock
that
and Roll
abundant
Hall of
life, and so
Fame,
that
the
was my
Radio
heart,
Hall
and I
of
knew it was
Fame.
God's
I mean,
heart
he's
too.
already in,
So
and so
as
his
God
kid
put this
was
on my
there.
heart, I just said,
He
show
was
me
a
how it's
guard.
supposed to look.
He was fun to
And
watch, and
one
a
by one,
granddaughter.
in
So
that
I mean, it was
next
just
year, he
the
put
guy who started
13 young moms
WLAC.
in
They
my
inducted
life,
him, and I can't tell
and
you
I
these
just
names off the
began
top
to
of my
show
head.
up.
I should,
And
if
I
I
would
had my
take him
program, I
out
could.
to eat.
But
For
it was
lunch, I would have him over
fascinating.
for
And
coffee. We
so,
would go to the
and then
park.
we had
I
the
hung out
legacy,
with
and
these
those
young
were
moms,
legacy inductions.
and I
As in,
listened
you know,
to
they've already
them a
passed.
lot,
And so
and
that
I
was
let
Phil.
them talk
And
and
so
share,
Phil's
and I was a
bride
safe
Susan, and
place
all
for
three
them
of
to
his
be
boys
honest
were
with and
there. And
real
it was,
with.
as soon
And
as
I
I
could
walked
see
up
it
and gave
in
the
their
boys a
eyes,
hug, they're
the
like, "You're
impact that
tired,"
this was
because
making, and
they grew up with my
especially
kids,
as
and so
every
it
time
was
we
just
would
neat
pray
to see
together,
them.
we would
But
take all
it
of
was
our
just a
concerns
special
to
night.
God.
And then
And
again,
that
getting
made
Devin
the
in there
greatest
was
impact
pretty
of all.
special.
And I began
So I
to
mean,
see God
it
is
was
doing
cool.
something
It was
here.
cool. But that's
There's
what we were
something
doing.
to
And
this.
those
This
storms
doesn't
came
have
in,
to
so
be
we
that
were
hard.
driving
And we can
into
do
the
this.
storms
And so
a couple
I
of
feel
different
like God
times,
has
and
put
it
me
just
on this
I
planet
was
to be a
thinking,
voice to say
wait.
to you, you
So,
can do this too.
It
If I
was-
can
it
do
was
it, you can
just,
do it. I'm as ordinary as they come. And even if you
It
feel
was
small
really,
and ordinary,
everything
God
was
can
lovely.
use you in
Janet
the
said this
life of
earlier on.
another
She
woman.
said, let me just give
And
you some
so
free
it's
advice.
just so
okay?
encouraging
This
to
is
see
his
what God
assistant,
does
Yeah.
when we're available
And,
and we show up and we
also
say
my
yes to
cousin.
Him.
So,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I always
Okay,
point that
so
out.
3
And
steps. If we're going
a lot
to
of people
shift
don't know
our
that, actually,
mentoring
but,
mindset,
so
I want to talk
she
about
said,
3 things we
having
can
gone
do.
through
And the
2
very
weddings, so
first
she has
thing
twin
we
girls.
have to do
Having gone through
is
2
talk
weddings, she
about
just said, you know what the
dispelling
important
our
thing is?
fears.
She's marrying somebody
Because
good.
we all
They
have
say
them,
I do.
right?
And
We have those fears
everybody
that
gets
rise up. So
safely
dispel
to
the
and
fears.
from the
We
wedding.
need to
Yes.
get rid
And the
of
rest
them.
is
We
just a
need
good
to
story
notice
to
and
tell
acknowledge
later.
that they're there,
And,
but then also
and she
just
said it's
say,
not
no
going to
more.
seem that
I'm
way
not
at the
gonna
time, but it
fear.
will later.
You know, and there's so
And that's
many
true.
fears that
I mean,
can say, I'm not
it really
enough.
is true. And
I
we,
don't know what to say.
the,
What if
the
we
young
don't
man that she
connect?
married
It's
is
all
just a
the what
wonderful
ifs
guy,
and the
and they
red
met
flags
at
and
Harding
the, you know, what if this
University.
doesn't go
And found
well?
out something that I
But
didn't
I
know.
wanna say, what if
He
it
had a
does go
crush on
well?
her since they were
You know,
freshmen.
what if it really
I didn't know
makes
that.
an
And
impact
see,
in
they
another
didn't.
person's
She didn't
life? I
discover
want to be a
that
part of that.
he
So we
liked
need
her
to dispel
until
those
last
fears
year.
and get rid of them and
so
really
they've
just
known
say
each
no
other
more,
since they
no
were-
more to
they've been
those
a
fears.
band
They're not going to
together,
control us. They're
That's
not
so
going to
sweet.
rule us.
I love
And
stories
we
like
also
that.
wanna look
And
at
you
what
just
the
reassure
Bible
her.
has
It
to
stormed
say
on my
about
wedding day,
mentoring.
and
I
I'm about
think
to have
it's
my
so
35th
important.
wedding anniversary.
Jesus
So
had a lot
they
to
say
say.
that that's
He
kind of a
modeled what it
blessing,
looked
you know,
like
that if
to
you get
live a
rain on
Stormy
it.
start.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
And
Or
I
the
think the
rain on
very
your wedding
first
day. I mean,
passage
there's
I
all
well, let
kinds
me
of
tell
old
you.
wives' tales, you know,
18
but
through 20.
ours
If
has
you have
been,
your Bibles,
pretty
open
awesome.
up
So.
with
Well,
me.
here's
find it on
here's
your
one
phone,
that nobody
but
saw
these are the
coming.
key verses
So
I
they,
feel, as Jesus was saying before he left this earth.
they're staying in a
this was
couple
his
places on their
last
honeymoon, but
words
one
to
one
his
is a vacation
disciples. And
rental
so I think
on
we need to
the
pay
beach,
attention
on a beach.
to those
And
last words.
I guess it's
And
up to them to
Jesus
tell
said
where that
this,
is. But anyway, they were
Matthew
calling for
28, 18
just
through
for
20.
last minute details or
Jesus
something.
came
I don't
and
know
told his
how this
disciples,
came up.
I have been given
But,
all authority in heaven and on earth.
Vacasa,
Therefore,
you know,
go
that
and
group,
make disciples.
it's like Verbo or whatever,
of all the
Vacasa, they do
nations,
vacation rentals. Okay.
baptizing them in the
They
name of the Father and the
they
Son
found
and
out
the
they
Holy
weren't
Spirit.
25, and so they
Teach these new
canceled
disciples
they
to
canceled
obey
it on
all
them.
the commands I have given you.
What?
And be
They're
sure
not.
of
They haven't
this,
turned
I am
25
with
yet,
you
and their
always,
policy is we
even
don't
to the
rent
end of
anyone
the
who's
age.
not
So
25.
right there we
And
see
they had
we
permission
gotta
from
go
the
and make
owner
disciples.
of
And I love
the
that
unit.
Jesus didn't say, and it can only be
so
done
they
this
were.
way.
Can you
You
imagine,
have
like
to be on a stage
3 days before you're
speaking to
supposed to
at
be
least
someplace, you
10,000
get canceled
people,
on because
or
you're
you have
not
to have
25?
social media followers
And they called
of
them and tried to talk
20,000
to
or
them,
more.
and they
No,
wouldn't
you
agree to
can
anything.
disciple people God
And
has
they
put
just
right
said,
into your
"You're-
life.
you're getting a refund."
Just as simply as
And
walking
it already been paid
alongside
for and
them,
everything. And
loving
it's
them
like
right
the
where
owner
they're
said it was
at,
okay, it doesn't
being
matter.
Jesus
Oh,
to them,
wow.
living out
Canceled
what
on
it
them.
looks
Oh my
like to
goodness.
be
So what did they
a
end up
lover
doing?
of
Are they
Jesus.
Well, we
And
have
so, to
alternate-
go and make
we have a
disciples, I
friend.
believe
We have a friend
mentorship is a
who we
form of
knew had
discipleship.
several
It
in
may
a
not
different
use those
city.
words in the
and
Bible.
we
Mentor, it's kind
called
of a
him,
modern day
and
term.
Janet called
But
him.
mentorship is a form
Janet gets it
of
done.
discipleship.
Janet gets it done.
So
Well,
I
it's
see
it's
mentorship
Janet's
as
friend
being
too.
more
So
relational, side by
so,
side. You're coming alongside another person.
he
Where
was
discipleship,
able
sometimes
to
you think of that teacher
work
and
something
students,
out.
maybe like
Yeah.
this,
He,
and you're teaching them
at the last
doctrine, you're
minute
teaching
on
them
one of the units
the
that he
things of
had,
God's
and
word, and maybe
so-
you're doing
Very
a Bible
good. Well,
study
God
together.
bless
Maybe
them.
there's
And what's
deeper
Nora's husband's
discipleship.
name?
But
Jake.
I love the
Jake
and
relational
Nora
discipleship,
Mooney?
the
Yeah, so it's gonna be
one-on-one,
Nora Mooney
the
now instead of Nora
prayer-focused mentoring.
Roberts.
That's what God put
No, she
on
won't
my
get the double
heart as
take
He
on
asked me to
Nora
start this
Roberts.
ministry.
Yeah.
And so I
Nora
just
Roberts,
believe
don't
that's a
I
key
know
part of
Nora
it.
Roberts?
Yeah.
He
Where have I
ends
seen
these
that name
verses
before?
with, "I will be with you always."
be in the
and I
checkout
love
counter
that.
in the
We
fiction.
do not
Oh,
have to
exactly.
mentor by
Romance
ourselves. We have
novels.
the Holy
Well,
and you know,
Spirit
we ha-
in
our
us,
youth minister is
giving us
Nathan
power,
Hill.
giving us the words to say, and we are not
Get a
alone
famous
in
name.
it.
And
I don't know.
he's-
That
and
gives us
everybody's like,
confidence
"Did
right
your
there.
parents know?" He
God
goes, "No,
is
my
with
name
us.
Nathan is
But
in the
also that word
Bible, and they
teach.
just happen to
It
have
makes
the
me
last
think
name
of the
Hale."
Titus 2 passage, which many of us are familiar with.
He's
The older
like,
women are
no,
to
no, no,
teach
no, no.
the
It's
younger women
biblical,
and
but it
train.
just
It uses
happens to
that word in there
coincide
as
with,
well.
you know.
Well,
And
when
I
I
don't know
was
about you,
in
but does that
school at
intimidate
Lipscomb, there was
you,
another
those words,
Kerry
teach
Roberts.
and train?
Oh.
I think those
And
are kind of
he
heavy
went
words.
to Trevecca.
What does that look
Okay.
like? Do I have to
And
have a whiteboard and
neatest,
out and tell them
neatest
the 1, 2,
guy,
3s
and
of how to do this?
I'm obviously
I don't know.
white. He
Teach
was
and train
black,
just always
and
made me feel
we would
kinda
get each
nervous,
other's
like,
phone
I'm not
calls.
good at that.
And
That's not
we
me.
had
But
more
when I
fun
think
over
of
that.
teaching
And
and
sadly, he
training,
passed
it's
away a few
more
years
about
ago. But just a great guy.
modeling
Stayed in
and living
Nashville.
out in front of
Got
another
involved in
person and just
insurance, financial
sharing with
planning,
them
and
the
of course I was a
greatness of God
CPA,
and who He
and
is
so
in your life.
Yeah.
so we
It's
got
truly just the overflow.
we got mixed
You
up
spend time with
and
Jesus, you get to know
on more
Him,
than
and
one
you
more than one
overflow with
occasion
Him,
got
and you
phone
let
calls.
that
His
come
wife, he
out,
got
and they're
married
listening
early,
to you
and I
share.
was a
They're
serial
hearing you
dater,
talk
and so
about
at
how
one
much you
point in
love
time,
Jesus.
his
And
wife
the
said,
way
"Do you
that
know how
you're
many
taught,
phone calls
I've
that
had
we've
women say, "Thank you for teaching
gotten
me,
where it's like
especially how to pray."
some woman, can I
And so
talk to
it's
Kerry?"
so fun to me to
And-
see how
and,
God can take that teaching
This is
and
Kerry,
training
and it's like, "It's
really
wrong,
turn it
Kerry," or
into
she
modeling
answers, and
and
it's
just
like,
living out a
I think I have the
lifestyle
wrong
of
number, and
prayer
just hang up.
and a
So
lifestyle of
hysterical.
mentoring.
I love
we
that.
laughed about that a lot.
That's
So
So
another verse
great
that I
guy,
really
great guy.
love
That's
is
the only other
Galatians
Kerry
6:2.
Roberts I've ever
This
known
is just
in my
another
life.
example
So
of what
Wow.
it can
there's
look
the
like
singer, but
to
she's
mentor.
K-E.
And
I
let's
mean,
just turn
I
to
should say
that.
Kerry
If you
spelled
can find
identically.
Galatians
to mine.
6:2. I
But
love
the singer
how it's
is,
worded in the
what,
NLT.
K-E-R-R-I-E or
And it
something.
says this:
And I don't even know, is
share
she still
each
sing? I
other's
don't know.
burdens,
know.
and
She
in
like,
this way
last thing I
obey
heard
the
was a
law
Christmas
of
album.
Christ.
And
Yeah.
If you
I have
think
no
you are
idea.
too
is that what
important
you
to
do
help
when your
someone,
career
you
is
are
like
only fooling
stagnating? You
yourself.
do a Christmas
You are
album.
not that
Holiday album?
important.
Is that it? It just seems like
I don't
everybody
know.
seems
So
to do.
makes me
People
laugh.
think
It's
I'm so
like,
plugged into
that
the
is for
music
all of
industry.
us
Last
as
Evan,
mentors.
she's the
We're
one who knows
not that
everyone.
important.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not
God
at
is the
all. I
important
mean,
one.
I love
But if we can
music, and
share
I do
each
play
other's
music
burdens
and
and
sing
come
and all that kind of
alongside
stuff, but I
another
know nothing
person,
about it.
and they
I
can feel
love
safe enough
Christian
to share the
contemporary
hard
right
things
now. That's
and
all
the
I've
things
been
that
you know
worry
what?
them
there
and
for a
keep them
long
up at
time.
night.
Yeah.
I think it's
So
a
I don't know
beautiful
anything
picture
about
of what
country
mentoring can
or,
look like.
or
And I think of the verse how we're
I don't
supposed
know
to
anything
cast
about
our
what
cares
is
upon the
popular,
Lord because He
you know,
cares
right
for
now.
us.
I know
And
a
just
little
picture a
bit
big old
about
fishing
country
pole.
in the sense
And
that
it's not
Thomas
like
Brett
that
went to school with my
mentee is
kids.
casting her
You
cares
know,
on
so I kind
us,
of watch
and all of
his
a sudden we
career a
have all
little
the burdens
bit.
on us.
Connor
It's like
Sweet is another
together
kid
we're
that grew up
hanging
with my
onto the fishing
kiddos, and he's
pole.
charted with
And
some
we're putting all
songs. And
those
so
burdens on
the
the end
people
of
who
that
I
hook,
actually
and
know
together we're
that are doing
casting them
music,
out
I
on
try to
Jesus,
kind of stay up on
and it
that.
makes it so much
And of, you know,
lighter
the
for
things
both
that make
of
the
us.
news, like
And it's not
try
like we're
that in a
taking
small
each other's
town,
burdens
and all,
on, but we're
all of that,
sharing
because
because
we
we're
actually
hanging
were in
onto the fishing
Columbia where
pole
that
together.
video was shot.
So
Right,
that's
now,
kind
and
of
so
that
that was
visual God's
interesting.
given me. It's a
But,
beautiful
you know,
picture.
You know, it's
of
amazing
walking
how, I'm sorry,
alongside
if anybody
another woman and
bought into
sharing
all
a
that
burden of hers together.
It's
garbage.
I think it's
Yeah,
a beautiful
It's
example
like,
of mentoring.
I just,
Okay,
that's
one
where we
final
are
chapter
in
I
this
wanna look at
country
is
that
Psalm
people just want
145.
to
There's
complain
many
and complain.
verses
And
we
the
could
problem
look
is they
at.
have a voice to
And
do
this
it
is my most
because
favorite chapter
social
in the
media
whole Bible.
amplifies the voice,
And I
and
think
then the
it's an
media
example,
is
a
all
great example of
more
what
than
it
willing
means and
to
what it looks like to be
amplify
a mentor
stupidity.
and what does it sound like.
It's just amazing.
Psalm
And-
145.
But we still
I love it so
have
much because
0
it talks
minutes.
about the greatness of God
I was,
and
you know,
who
just
he
we were talking
is.
to people. We're
And
just
that's
people
really what we're
want to
doing
talk
as
about
mentors.
politics.
We're pointing people to God.
And I
telling
don't,
them
but
this is who he is.
but
and so
you know, at a
says
place like
this,
a wedding,
I will
that's the last thing I
exalt
want to
you,
do.
my God
But
and King,
here is
and
the
praise your name
here's the quick
forever
anecdotal
and
thing.
ever. I will praise you.
Oh, Trump's
every
in a lot of
day.
trouble,
Yes,
isn't he?
I will praise you forever.
And you
Great
know,
is
people
the
want to talk
Lord.
about Trump
He's
getting
most
indicted and
worthy of
everything like
praise.
that. And
No
and
one can measure his greatness.
and my
Let
question
each
is,
generation
I'll
tell
ask
its children,
if
and I say
they're
let each
aware
mentor
of
tell their mentees
you know,
of your
Hunter
mighty
Biden's
acts.
problems. Nobody
Let
is.
them
I know.
proclaim your
And just
power.
in case you don't have any
I will
idea what I'm talking
meditate
about
on
right
your
now,
majestic, glorious splendor
Ukraine,
and your wonderful
what, a
miracles.
drone
And it just goes on to say,
Ukraine is
speak
about
out,
we're about ready to have
declare it,
World War
proclaim
III
it to
between
the next
Ukraine and
generation.
Russia and
They
everybody
have to
else that's
hear
getting
it
sucked into
about
it.
the greatness of
And
God.
we are sending
And
billions
that's
upon
what a
billions
really
of dollars
great
to
mentor does.
Ukraine.
It's not about us coming with
All
all
this
the great
military
advice
hardware
and all
that
the
we're sending
answers.
to them.
It's pointing to our great God.
We're
and
getting
saying,
sucked
"This
into
is
World
who
War
I've come
III.
to know.
And why
I
is
know
that?
this
Can
is
anybody
his
tell me
character,
why?
and we can
No one,
rely
no
on his
one. This
character.
ought to be the
He's
headline every
true,
night.
he's
Every
faithful,
single
he's
night, this ought to
good,
be the headline.
And we're pointing to him.
Hunter and
they
Joe
fall in love
Biden
with
took
Jesus, and
millions
that's the
upon
goal
millions
in
upon
mentoring
millions
right
of
there.
dollars in bribes.
Okay, so we've talked
from
about
people
first we're
related
going to
to
dispel
Ukraine.
our fears.
There you go.
And secondly,
That's it. That
we're
should
gonna
be the number one
display
headline in the news. And
four
instead,
pillars of
the
mentoring.
Biden administration to
And
deflect
those are
information.
kind of
And
my
I'm
own
sorry, I don't
words
normally
that
get
I
into
use,
to rants like
but
this
I
on.
love them because
But the
in all
Biden
these years
administration
that I've
to
been
deflect,
mentoring, I feel like these
attention
four
away
words
from their
have come to the surface
treasonous
of what is
legal
mentoring all about. What
woes,
do I need to do?
selling
And I
influence to
just say
foreign
there's four
entities.
words:
It's not just
love,
Ukraine, it's also China.
listen,
And if you're not paying attention to
encourage,
these hearings that are
and
taking
pray.
place in Washington,
And I
D.C.
just want to
right
start
now,
with that word love.
with these
I think if
whistleblowers
a
that have come
woman
forward
steps into
and
your
said
life
this is
and
treason.
she knows that you really care
And there's
about
zero,
her, and
zero
it's not about you.
on
You
Fox,
just care and you
zero
show
on
up
CNN.
and you look
They're
in
not,
her
to my knowledge,
eyes
they're not
and you let her
televising these
talk.
hearings.
You see
They're not
her.
reporting on these hearings.
You let her
and
talk
it's
so you
absolutely
hear her
explosive.
and you get to know her.
And
She
people
is
hear the
gonna
word
feel so
impeachment
loved.
and they just
that
tune it
makes
out
a
and move on.
Big difference.
Why are they
It's
talking about
huge.
impeaching
If
him
she
right
feels
now?
loved, she
Because
will
he's
feel
been
like I can
selling
tell you anything.
access to
We
the
can
White
go to
House
God
for
about
8 years while
anything, and you're
Obama
going
was
to
president.
connect in an authentic
He's in here
way,
the wrong day. Come in
that
here,
loving
Chief.
relationship. So it starts with love and really seeing that
I
person
wanted
where they're at.
you in. It's
And then
next
listen.
month. I mean, it's
I
like
say
the.
over 50%
It's not today.
of
We got our
mentoring
days
should
wrong.
be
I may have
listening.
told you
And
wrong.
that's probably not what the world
Did I
would
tell
say.
you today?
my fault if
No,
I
come
was.
in here and say hi to us real quick, Chief.
Down all
But
your wisdom and
no,
insight
seriously, if I
and
did, that was
advice.
my mistake. Come on
But
in
I
here and
feel
sit
like
down.
over
I got
all these
Senator Rob.
years,
Sit
as
right
I
here
have
with us
stepped
for a
into
second.
these kind of relationships,
He's done.
the
You
more
just
I
saved
learn
everybody
But,
from a
and
rant.
let
So-
a
No,
woman
but
talk,
I'm
she
telling you,
just feels
I
loved and
had
feels like
in
she's
my
heard,
mind,
and
I had in.
she can
I'll have to get my
process it
my,
and
my
share
date
it
book. I
and
don't
get
know
it
what
off
I
her
texted. I
chest,
guess I
and
texted you
her
today,
load is
didn't I?
lighter because of that as
Oh,
well.
good heavens!
I think of
Because
one story
because I
that,
typically do law
one of these
enforcement
mentees I had, I
on the
was
third
meeting with
Monday.
her, and I showed up and I
On
just
the
asked
third
her one
Monday, and so that's
question,
what I
and
intended
she
to
talked
send
for
you
one
is
whole
on the
hour.
third
I don't think
Monday
I
because
said one more
whenever
word.
because I try to do
So it was kind
1
of
month
funny. I
have
just
you
sat there
have
listening, but at
sheriff
the end of
in
it, she
and 1
said,
month have
"Okay,
you
I have
in.
to go now,
Get
but
on that
thank you
microphone
for
and say
all the
hello.
advice you
We've got
gave
Chief
me."
Jason.
You might be far more entertaining than I would be.
I
You,
said,
you
"You
probably
are
have a
so
lot better
welcome."
stories
Turn that
than I have.
microphone around to you. So
And
look
I
at your
just said,
phone and did I
"That
actually
gave
text
me
you
a picture
today?
of this is what it looks like.
Oh,
You
good.
listen well,
I'm
and
just
they
glad
feel
I'm
like
not
they've been
wrong.
heard,
So,
and you
oh,
don't
it's
even have
on,
to give
darling.
advice,
You
but
just
they
got to
feel like
talk.
you've given them
So,
advice.
so I'm not
And
wrong.
So God can do that.
Oh, yes.
I read Monday, and it had been so long, I turned you down actually on a couple of times. So
Yeah.
scheduling wasn't right. And I'm so
It's
sorry.
not
So
No, no
I've got to be
problem.
there Monday.
So
She's
she's
gloating.
all those answers.
I am just a little bit. I love you, brother. But when you walked in, I was like, I really don't think I booked you for today. But
Well,
and so I want to be like
so,
that.
but I'll come back
I
on the
want
20th.
people to
if
feel
you
like
don't
they can tell me
mind, if you don't
anything and I'm
mind,
really
but
gonna listen.
what have you got going on?
I
Anything
remember
crazy
one
busy?
retreat
Because
Please,
school's getting ready to
look,
start.
I'm recovering from a
mentor
wedding. I'm
He
going to
did.
just sit here and sip my
Downstairs and have
coffee,
one
and I'm going to
hour
listen to
like
whatever you got to
people
say.
in
So you just
I
go
said,
right ahead.
Yeah,
And
we
don't
don't
worry
want
about
you
it.
to come in without just staying off. So
You've got a
I'm
busy
here to
month
listen.
coming up anyway.
And
So.
one by one, these women
Maybe.
came and they just began
My
to
husband's
cry
telling me to
before
stop
I even
gloating.
said anything, because they finally
Pride goes
found
before
he's
fall.
my
someone
friend,
who was
Mark.
willing to hear the
I'm just
really hard
playing.
stuff
He
that they
knows.
didn't
I'm
share
just
around the
teasing.
kitchen
So
table
anyway.
I need a
as we were
personal
all meeting
assistant.
together.
Yes,
But
you
they
do.
came down
Well,
and
there you
sat
go.
with me
I mean,
and
you have. Do
cried
you have
and
anybody
just
that does? You know,
shared
just
their
like they have
burdens.
Jessica
And I prayed
for,
over them, and we had the
for
sweetest time
Jessica
together.
Drake
But again,
for
it was
sheriff.
another
Do you have
visual
anybody
of,
like that in your office?
Nancy,
Who do
this
I need
isn't
to
about
contact to
you.
help you?
You just be
On that kind of
available.
stuff.
You
What do I
show
help
up,
you with
listen,
scheduling
you
and
let
stuff?
We do
them
have an
process.
office
And
manager.
God
Okay.
Not specifically for me,
Right.
exactly. But,
So it's a beautiful thing to watch.
I try to take care of everything on my own. Sometimes, you get so busy with everything.
Sure.
Everyone you talk
That's
to.
Nancy
So,
Lindgren
But,
with part one of a
Hey,
message
though, let
she
me
gave
encourage
last
you with
fall
this.
at our national conference,
Tony
True Woman
Giordano,
22.
the developer in Nashville,
We'll hear part 2
who's just,
tomorrow on
to
Revive
me,
Our
is
Hearts.
one of the best.
You'll
He
find
doesn't have a
information
personal
about her
assistant.
book, Mentoring
He does
Made
exactly
Real,
what you do. He
linked
just
with
takes
a
care of it himself.
transcript
So
of this
see,
program at
great minds
reviveourhearts.com.
think alike. How about that?
You know, Nancy.
Well, anyway,
Obviously, I don't do a
Nancy,
good job at it. So I'm
No,
not-
seriously,
Something so right about
I
this
appreciate so much you
concept of
coming in
women
here and
investing
seeing.
in
I
one
mean,
another's
because that's the
lives.
thing. When I
And this
sent
is
you a note,
something
you're
that's
like,
been
"Yeah,
on
I'll
my
be
heart
there."
for a number of years
And
now.
but
There's a
if
whole
you can,
generation
come back
of
and see
baby
us,
boomer women,
on
the largest generation
on that
in
on
our
that third, because
country's
I'll have
history,
Caleb Stratton
who are
in, so we kind of have a law
retiring or
enforcement
nearing
day,
retirement.
and we
Many
always
of them
Caleb
empty
comes in once a
nesters,
month because
and I
we
believe
talk
that
about all
these
the
women
things
can
going
be a
on and
huge
wildlife
resource for the
resources,
body
there's
of
always
Christ.
something. But
If they'll
what's
keep
top
their
of the what is
focus
top of the
outward
We can
list for
talk
you guys
about,
right
about
now?
a couple
invest
different
in
things.
others
We've
during
got a new
this
assistant
important
chief,
season
Chief,
of their
Chief,
lives.
Chief
You know,
Danny
Nancy, my
Johnson
mom
retired
is
after
one of those
49
women. And God
years of
really used
service with the city.
circumstances to
It's
speak to her
Yeah.
heart about 2 years
We
ago,
won't see that
inviting
again in
her
law
to
enforcement, I
stay
don't
in
think.
ministry.
Yeah.
As she
But,
searched the
we're
scripture,
very
she just
proud of
really
his
came to
service
believe
and
that
glad he
while
got to
there
retire.
are
Wish
shifts in
him
her
all the best,
energy
but we
and
promoted,
career
Madison
that limit
Burnett.
the way
And
she
Madison's
serves
been
the
on the
body of
show
Christ,
with
there's
us
really
before,
no
so he was our
retirement
captain over
from glorifying
patrol
God with her
operations,
life.
so he's going to take
Yeah, your
over
mom
as
is a great
assistant chief,
example of that, and I
and
love
think
the
it's
way
gonna be
that you have
great.
followed in her
Won't see
example, as I
any-
have
we
in the
won't miss out
example
on
of
any
my
service
mother.
that we provide
And that's the kind
for
of
any
example we
citizens.
want to
So
set
it's,
for the
got
women
some
coming
exciting things
behind
going
us.
on. Would like to
Well,
remind
Revive Our
everybody
Hearts,
we
we
had
spent
an
a lot of
uptick,
time
and
focusing
I
on
think
this
it's
whole
across the
subject
state,
of women
statewide,
discipling and
especially in the
mentoring
area of
and
Middle
investing in the
Tennessee,
lives
vehicle
of other
thefts
women.
and thefts from
That
vehicles.
happens day after day
Please,
through
if
this
we tell
program.
everybody, just
It
take
happens
your
also
keys out of
through
your
a lot of our
vehicles. Do
resources,
not leave them
such as
in the
the
car
book
at
that
night.
I've written
Lock your
called
vehicles,
Adorned,
even if you're at
Living
your own
Out the
residence
Beauty
or
of
your
the
apartment
Gospel
complex.
Together.
You're parking
And I'm
at
thankful
a
for the small
shopping
group
center,
kit that
wherever
goes
it may
with that
be.
too, to give women
But
a
remove your
handle on
belongings
how
too.
to do
What we're
this
seeing
with a
is
small
lot
group in their
of
area.
youth being
Well,
dropped
over the
off in
years,
neighborhoods,
this
wandering
message
around
of
neighborhoods
women
late at night.
mentoring and discipling other
we're seeing
women
this because we're seeing
has
it on
been
ring cameras
resonating
and security
with
cameras.
women all around the
And
world.
we were
Many
able
of them
to
have
catch
said,
a few
"I
last
want to do
week
this,"
and get
and
them.
they're taking the next step.
The guys charged
calling
with
up
it.
some friends,
But
saying,
what they're
"Can we
looking
get
for is
together?"
electronics,
We're
money,
talking about
guns,
life on life. Women
firearms,
together through
anything
the
in the vehicle
joys,
that they
the
can
sorrows,
take. They're
the
not
ups and the
they're not
downs.
spending a lot of time
And what they're doing is
per se
pointing
breaking
each
into
other
it, but just
to the
entering
Word
vehicles that are
and to
unlocked.
Christ. They're reminding each other,
Moving
heaven
on really
rules.
quickly. So just if we
Christ
could take
is
those
king.
steps, those are
Whatever your
very
season
simple
of
things
life,
we can do
it
to
really
reduce
comes down to that
the
message.
problems you
It
may
sure
have with
does.
getting
And
your laptop
if you
stolen
lead
or
the
your
women's
phone.
ministry
Why in
in
the
your
world
church,
anybody would leave
if
those
you're a
things in their
pastor's wife,
vehicle?
or if you're a woman
overnight? I
who's
don't know
just
where
plain
their keys,
interested in
please,
mentoring others,
please.
listen up.
Take those extra steps, and it could save you a lot of
we
trouble,
have a
especially if your
2-hour
wallet's stolen,
online training
or
event
your
called
ID or things like that, which
Mentor
can have residual,
Me.
these
And
all
I'm
these
going to be
ripple
there.
effects,
Our own
residual
Leslie
effects that
Bennett will be
you have to
there.
go get your new
Nancy
ID and
DeMoss
things like that. So
Wagamuth
please
will
take
issue
those
us a
simple little
challenge,
steps.
and
Easy things
also
to do.
Nancy
Easy.
Lindgren,
Doesn't
our
it
guest
surprise you
today,
that in the
will be
world of so
co-hosting
many
the whole
cameras
thing.
and so many
Here's
people
what
that
to
have
expect.
ring cameras
You'll get
or
equipped.
Nest or whatever?
You'll be prepared to
We
mentor and
just
train
think at
others to
some point in
mentor
time
by
that people would
experienced
go,
teachers.
you know,
You'll
I'm gonna
create
be
and
on
sustain
camera
a
somewhere,
mentoring
but
culture.
Yeah,
That
they
is,
just
we're
very
going to
brazen.
Stop
help you
anything,
learn
does
how
it?
to
Yeah.
Very
lay the
brazen.
groundwork for a
I think they
long-term
got a little bit used to
culture
it. It helps
of
us
mentoring.
out tremendously.
You're going to
because
develop a
it helps us
mentoring
be able to solve
lifestyle.
crimes
That
we
is,
didn't have
you'll
that
understand
point of
better
view.
what
If
works
everybody
and
had
what
a ring
doesn't for
camera and
all
alarm
ages of
system,
mentoring,
we'd be a lot better
including
off.
tweens
Or
and
say
teens.
ring, but whatever camera system
And
you
you're going to
have.
be commissioned. We are going to encourage you to
These
move
the
forward
ones
with
we watched
confidence to
last week.
fulfill
They just
your
walk
calling
casually
to
through the
mentor.
neighborhood, you know, with
It's tomorrow
backpacks
evening,
on and
August
walking
1st,
by
from
these
7 to
cameras
9
and
Eastern. But even if you can't make it to the live
don't
event,
understand
it will
it.
be
Like,
recorded.
unless
So you
they
can
just get
sign up
used to it. They're
today,
just
and then
simply
you'll have
used to this-
access to the
this
content
life of
on
being on
tomorrow
video
evening to use
everywhere
on
and
demand. There's more information about
Well, and you
registering
mentioned
for
firearms,
Mentor
and I
Me
think that's one of
online
the
training
things that
event at our website.
that has been. I know in
reviveourhearts.com,
Nashville they've
or
put
call us
out
at
the call several times about
1-800-569-5959.
don't leave your weapon
That's
in your car. Because-
1-800-569-5959.
because you talk about such an easy way for
I
them
hope
to
you'll join me for that
get a hold
tomorrow
of them.
evening.
It's just
Tomorrow
We
on
want
Revive
everybody to
Our
carry
Hearts,
their firearms
Nancy Lindgren
safely
will be
and
back
out here
with part
and
2 of her message called
you know, we're
Mentoring
Second Amendment
Made
people. We believe in
Real.
people's right
I
to
hope
carry
you'll
firearms,
tune
but
in.
do it safely.
Again, that's
Training.
tomorrow.
Just irresponsible.
On Revive Our
But don't
Hearts.
be irresponsible, because then it puts a lot of pressure on all the people that do
Revive Our Hearts
carry
with
legally
Nancy
out here
DeMoss
and do the
Wagamuth,
right thing, and we
calling
have
you
all
to
these
reach out and
incidents
share
where
the freedom,
we want you to be
fullness,
safe in
and
your car too.
fruitfulness
Understand
you
the
With your
logic
local
in
news
carrying it
from
with you.
WSGI.
Please be smart
Quite
about
the storm
it.
this
I mean, don't
weekend.
just leave it where
First wave of
somebody else
storm
can get it,
Saturday
or a
afternoon
child,
hit the
or to sell
northwestern
it
areas of Mount
out here
Juliet
on
hard,
criminal
creating a
market. Those are the
microburst
things we have to
with
argue
winds
with.
estimated
We're
to be
arguing about
80
safe
miles an
and
hour.
secure gun
Areas
control
along and off of Saltersville Road
doing
and
these things to
Saltersville
make sure
Ferry Road were
society
hit
is
the
kept
hardest,
safe. So
with
it's
numerous
very simple.
trees
I
and
mean,
power lines
unless
down.
they cost a lot of money, why do you,
Yeah,
why in the world would you want
Yeah,
to
why
replace
would you
them?
just leave them? I've never understood
Storm,
why.
leaving thousands in the area without electricity.
Well, and it's
Crews
just
worked
and
overnight
people,
in the
you
early
know, I
morning
think
hours
too,
of
there's a lot
Sunday
of
to
folks that
restore
grew up in
power
the
to the
era
area.
that I grew up in,
Fire
and I know
officials
you,
are
you're a
investigating
little
the
bit
cause of
younger
a
than us, so
house
you're
fire.
few
in
Okay, here's the
Montgomery
test.
County.
Here's the test. Do you remember
Fire
gun
Rescue,
racks
along with Montgomery
in the back of a
That's what I was
pickup
gonna
at high
say.
school? Because
Yeah.
I remember
I grew up with that.
I remember at
Afternoon.
lunchtime going out
It was
and
posted by
seeing,
Clarksville Fire Rescue
looking at
show
somebody's
home
new
building
shotgun or new
smoke,
deer rifle or whatever,
flames in
and
multiple
that
vehicles
obviously would never
charred
happen
Just a
by
today.
different
blaze.
world. And
You still could, yes.
Firefighters able
When
to
I
get
was
the
in high
fire
school,
under
you still
control
could
despite
carry,
a
in the
limited
vehicle,
water
shotgun
supply.
rifle. I remember
wouldn't think a thing about
guys
it.
going
Country
hunting
musician
after
Craig
school
Morgan
before school or
enlisted into
something
the
and
U.S.
didn't
Army
think anything
Reserve
about
this
it, but
weekend during a live show
obviously
at
things
the
have
Grand
changed
Ole
quite a bit
Opry.
Certainly.
now, and
Morgan,
We
an
had an
Army
incident
veteran,
at
was
one of the
sworn in
schools.
as a staff
I
sergeant
don't
on
remember which
Saturday in
school,
front
but
of a
one of our
sold-out
schools
crowd
in
at
the
the
county
Opry.
where somebody
He
had gone
previously
hunting and
17 years
forgot
in the Army
that it was
and
in
Army
their
Reserve
truck
with the
and went to
101st
the
and
office and said,
82nd Airborne
"Hey,
Divisions as an
I've
E6
got my
staff
weapon
sergeant
here."
and fire
And so
support
I think there was an
Morgan
alert
will
kind of went
continue
out,
his
and I don't know the
music career while
specifics, but
serving
it would
in
have
the
been a
Army
county
Reserve.
thing. But
He'll be assigned
that
to
kind of
Redstone
thing, I
Arsenal
mean, they
in
were being very
Alabama.
responsible.
And
And they're like,
visitors
"I
are flocking to the
forgot."
Nashville
It's,
Zoo to witness the
and they might have
impressive
could have just
Komodo
not said
dragon
anything.
exhibit,
I don't
which is now
know,
the
but I know
largest
that
habitat in the
happened, and
Americas
so
for these
we got a
majestic
lot of hunters,
reptiles.
and so you
They're
just
the
got to be
heaviest
careful.
lizard on
Just gotta be
Earth, can
careful.
weigh
Be
over
safe and
300
smart.
pounds,
Yeah.
reach up to
Smart,
10
I think
feet in
Metro has
length.
done quite a bit.
They are an
putting a
endangered
lot of literature
species,
out, so
climate
that's
change,
smart.
and human
Just
actions
working
are
smart.
primary concerns
Keys, take your
impacting
belongings,
their
anything you don't
survival.
want to get taken.
I'm
Yeah.
Ron
out of that
Jordan.
vehicle.
That is your
Even the
local
gym, we see it at
news.
the
And this
YMCA a lot.
Thousands
Oh,
of
yeah.
yeah.
Coming
precious
in and
treasures
do
board
some
a
things in the
Robertson County
vehicle.
school
and
bus
we
every
can't be
school day.
everywhere all the
There
time.
are
I wish
nearly
we
100
could.
buses running about
Do
80
those
different
simple things
routes,
to take care of
delivering
yourself,
our kids
protect
to their
yourself,
schools,
do what?
their field trips,
Talking
and
about
many
the why
other
is a
school
good
and
point because I
extracurricular
can remember an
activities.
incident in
To fulfill
Nashville
the
where
need of
they
student
had people in
transportation, the Robertson County school system needs
the
drivers
fitness
and
centers and
attendants.
stuff because
Pay
people
starts
don't
at
want to take that stuff
$21
into
an hour for
to work out
drivers
with them,
and $13
and that was
an
a
hour for
target.
attendants.
Some people were
The
targeting
schedule
the
is
fitness
flexible,
centers, but I
with
hadn't
some
even thought
drivers
about
working
that.
a morning or
Yeah, and I
afternoon
think some
only
places
schedule,
don't
and everything in
allow
between.
firearms, and I
Many
get it,
stay-at-home
understand.
moms and teachers have discovered the
and then
bonus
people
of
may
earning
be
excellent
reluctant
extra
to leave them
income
in their
while
vehicle
working
or
a schedule that matches the
walk
school
it
year
or something.
schedule.
So just be
For them,
very smart
it's a
about it,
perfect
'cause
fit.
we don't want to see
Retirees
them
are
get out
earning
here on the
extra
street,
income
and then
and fulfilling desire
it just
to help
muddies up the
mentor our
water
next
on the
generation.
arguments on
Truck drivers that have grown
about
tired of
firearms
working
and
on the
things like
road
that.
and dealing with
Just be very
interstate
careful
traffic
with them.
have found
Sure.
working with Robertson County
Well,
schools
and I
to
tell you,
be
I
a
got to
great
do some breaks. I
alternative
haven't
to
done a
meet their
break yet,
employment
but
needs.
I do appreciate you
Basically,
coming in,
driving
and
a
I was
school bus
so
or
teasing
serving
you.
as a
My
bus
husband's like,
attendant
you
can
don't
work
do
for
that.
anyone.
My husband,
If you're looking
my
for the
husband
most
is
flexible job
he
you'll ever
gets
love,
on to
apply
me. I'm
today
sorry,
at
you're right. I shouldn't have gloated, but you're very
www.rcn.org.
kind and very
It's fine.
gracious.
It's fine. I deserve
You're
it.
very
I
gracious.
completely deserve
No,
it.
you don't.
You just give us the opportunity to bring Madison,
That's
assistant chief.
Well, I was going to say, why don't
www.rcn.net
you
or call
see if you can do that and bring our new assistant in here and
This has been a public service
and
announcement
we can
from
just
Robertson
visit on
County
all this stuff.
Schools.
Let me
A
go ahead
chance to
and
dry
do a
out
break,
today
and you
with
guys
the worst
chat
of the
amongst
stormy
yourself for a
weather
minute. We'll
behind
come
us.
back and
Climbing through the 70s
and,
first thing
just
with
kind of
lots
wrap
of
it up.
clouds heading for a high
just
of
if there's anything
86
for
later in the
school starting,
afternoon.
if you think
The
you need
humidity
to
has
Just be
finally
safe.
dialed back
Watch
as
those
well.
buses.
Fall into
You know,
the
we have these
60s this
conversations
evening,
all
and
the
the
time.
sun is
Watch for
back
the
for a
kids. Be
comfortable high of
patient.
81
Maybe you
for
leave
your
a little bit
Saturday.
earlier for work.
That's a
but
look at your
be
forecast.
mindful that
I'm number
school's
one.
starting
Nick.
back.
When the need
There'll be a
arises,
lot of
caller
kids out
visits
there.
strip
Just
them
slow down a little bit.
in her home
Stay
at
off your phones.
4005
I mean,
at full
first
service
time
funeral
when
home.
that
A chance to
became a
dry
law,
out
thank
today
you,
with the
from
worst of the stormy
our
weather behind
assembly.
us. Climbing through the
What was it, a
70s
couple of
first
years
thing with
ago
lots of
where
clouds
you
heading for
couldn't
a high
have
of
your phone
86
in,
later in the
well,
afternoon.
before we
The humidity
just
has finally
absolutely
dialed back as well.
outlawed
We'll fall
having,
into the
you know, doing it.
60s
You had to
this
be
evening. Then
hands-free.
the sun is back for a comfortable high
It
of
first was in
81
school
for your
zone
Saturday.
that you had to be
That's a look at your
hands-free. That was the
forecast.
first
I'm
part of the
number
law,
one, Nick.
and then it was like, no,
That
you know, you
says
got to
we
keep
need to
your
share
phone
one another's
hands-free all the
burdens.
time.
That's
So-
Here's
one of our
Nancy
biggest
Lindgren
causes
with a
of
visual.
I just picture a big old fishing
is
pool.
distracted
And
driving, which would be on a
together we're
device or
hanging
using
onto the
something
fishing
while
pool.
you're driving,
And we're we're
speed,
putting all those
obviously, in
burdens on the
reckless
end of that
driving. So
hook.
be careful
and
out there. Pay
together
attention.
We're casting them out on
There's
Jesus.
going to be a lot more people on
and
the
it makes
road
it so
and
much
in
lighter
school
for
zones
both
too,
of
and
us.
just be patient. Some of these bus drivers are getting their
Welcome to
groove
Revive Our
back on
Hearts
too.
from
for
Monday,
yeah.
July
routes and-
31st.
It's the first day of school in
Janet
Robertson
Gresh.
County.
And our host is the
Week
author
from
of
today.
Adorn.
Teachers go back on
Nancy
Friday.
DeMoss Walton.
Teachers are back on Friday, and then a week from today, we're back home. So I'm a teacher now. I love teasing the kids. I'll see them out in town. I'm like,
Have you ever wished that you could get some wise advice?
you know, they don't want to hear
from
it,
an
but
older woman that you
I'm
could trust
excited.
on
I'm a
some
new
tough
teacher. You know, I've got so
questions
many
you're
friends. My friend Muriel
I think
Barnett,
all
she
of us
retired
wish
after
we could have
31
that
years.
kind of wisdom.
And some of these teachers are
But in
worn
our
out.
day
Well,
of
I'm
shallow
new, and
connections,
so I'm
it
just
can be
excited.
tough to
You know, I'm
find
like one
those
of these
kinds
kids
of
coming out of
relationships.
college. But I'm not.
Here at
I'm
Revive
one
Our
of the
Hearts,
oldest
we
teachers in the
encourage you to be
building, if not the
intentional about
oldest
your
teacher.
relationships.
That's okay, too.
And to look at
Well, thank
passages
you
like
again for
Titus
coming in.
chapter 2
I'm gonna go ahead and hit
as
my
a
breaks
model
here
for
and
older women
continue
teaching
on,
younger
and we'll
women.
just finish our
Let me
conversation.
read
Unless you
verses
have
3
something else
through
you think you
5
need to.
of Titus
Well,
chapter
thank
2.
you.
got
and
anything
I'll be
else?
The
back.
Apostle
All
Paul
right,
says
stay
that
tuned.
older
We'll have
women
more.
are
Thank
to be
you so
reverent in
much. Thank you,
behavior,
Chief. God
not
bless you.
slanderers
Thank you.
or
Thank you so
slaves to
much.
wine.
Chief Jason Head,
They're to
very
teach
gracious
what
to
is
come in here.
good,
Thank you, sir.
and so
I'm going to
train
take a
young
pause
women
and
to
go
love
ahead
their
and do one
husbands
of my
and
breaks
children.
while we make the
To be
transition. And y'all can talk for a minute while I do my
working
break.
at home,
I'm going to talk about Corbin Creek
kind,
Greenhouse Gifts and
submissive
Gardening
to their own
Center. I want to
husbands,
remind
that
you
the
that you
word
need
of
to get
God
out
may
and
not
see
be
them.
revived.
If you
Here
missed
at
them at the
Revive Our
farmers
Hearts, we've
market on
encouraged you to have
Saturday,
spiritual
be sure and
mothers,
go out and see them this
daughters,
weekend,
and
because here's the
sisters.
thing. They've got
That means
fresh
doing
produce
life
coming
in
out of
the
the garden.
context of
Don't
community
forget
with
that
like-minded
they've
women.
got,
It means
I picked up
finding
some
an
green
older
beans
woman
and some
that you can learn
squash. If you've
from.
not had, there's a
And it
yellow
means
green
becoming
squash.
that older
It's
woman
half yellow
for
and half
someone
green. It's called
else.
And if
Zephyr.
you're thinking,
And it is
that's
one
a
of the
great
best
idea, but is
squash
it
that you
really
can absolutely
possible?
get,
Our
and I
guest
just
today
absolutely love it.
is going to show
But we
us
enjoyed
it's
that
not
this
only
weekend, and some of their
possible,
fresh
it
green beans.
works.
But they're always
And
picking
it's
in
a
the
joy for
garden,
both the
and
mentor
they'll have
and the
fresh
person
produce
being
for you there
mentored.
inside the
Nancy
office. You
Lindgren
can go and
is
pick
the
up your
founder and
CBD products
CEO
that are
of
Robertson County
More
CBD.
Mentoring. She
They
calls
are, of course,
herself a
produced from
simple,
plants that her
ordinary
brother
woman
Bill
who
grows.
loves, serves,
Anything
and
you need, they've got
believes
some
in an
beautiful hydrangeas. The
extraordinary God.
plants that they
She's
have
passionate
that you can
about
pick up
mentoring,
at Corbin
something
Creek
she's done
is
faithfully
absolutely
for over
wonderful,
20
beautiful stuff
years.
to
In
just
fact,
bring
she
some
wrote a book
beautiful
titled
color into your
Mentoring
yard
Made
here at
Real.
the, in the dog
Nancy and
days
her
of
husband
summer. Going to
Mark
have to keep
live
them
in
watered, of course,
Fairplay,
but you can
Colorado.
go and check out all
They
the
have
wonderful
4
things
grown
they have at
children
Corbin Creek
and a
Greenhouse.
well-worn welcome
Open
mat
today.
at their
They're still in their
front
summer
door.
hours,
She
9
gave
to
this
5,
message in a breakout
Monday
session at our
through
most recent
Saturday, and then,
Woman
of course, on
Conference.
Sunday, 1 to
Let's listen
4.
together.
Want to get you to get out there and see them. They're at 4920 Highway 161, 4920 Highway 161 in Springfield. And when you get out there, always please let them know that you turn sent you. And I'm going to get back into.
We don't have enough to offer, so many of us feel like we're not.
Going to get on into the show now. Back into the show. And y'all got to quit talking amongst yourselves now. All right. Thank you, Chief. God bless you. Thank you so much, my friend. God bless. I'll see you later.
See you soon.
And absolutely. Thank you so much. And we're going to continue our conversation with Senator Kerry Roberts. And anyway, thank you again, Jason Head. When I saw him, I was like, well, because I'm notorious for getting my schedules all mixed up. And so I do it all the time. And I'm trying to do better. I keep a hard calendar now. And so I've been working on my calendar. But anyway, I thank him so much for coming in. And again, yeah, you're kind of wound up after the wedding. So that was a nice little, takes the pressure off of you for a minute, right?
Yes.
So what is, I want to say one thing too, before we go any further. People, we had something come up where we had some problems with something happening on a state level. And I had to call and just say, hey, can y'all help us with this? Because we're getting conflicting messages from the same department and we don't know what to do. And people forget that our representatives, they're your representatives for a reason. And I just can't thank you enough for your help. Just, amazing. And I know you say Janet.
Yeah, I do. Because, okay, so, I say this a lot, that people say, what does a state senator do? Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, it's important to know what we don't do.
Right.
We don't, city issues, county issues, school board issues, these are all things that have elected representatives. That federal issues, you've got people who are elected for those specific things. And so can we facilitate discussions related to those things? Sure we can. If somebody has a veteran issue, let's really a Marsha Blackburn or Bill Haggerty or Mark Green as your United States Congressman, United States Senators. If somebody has a problem with a neighbor in a neighborhood who's violating codes, that's a city of Springfield or whatever,
or county
White
mayor
House or whatever.
if it's in the county.
Yeah, if it's in the county, yeah. So we get those kind of phone calls, and sometimes we direct people to the correct person, and you feel like the person is like, oh, well, you just don't want to help me. You're telling me to call somebody else. No, it's because we don't. That's not. We're trying to stay in our lane here. We all have our roles, and knowing your role is really important. And so, my role as a state senator is number one, to vote on legislation that's effective statewide. And if you think about it, and this gets violated periodically, but our laws in Tennessee are supposed to apply to every Tennessean. And sometimes they kind of get carved out to apply to a county, and they're really not supposed to. It's supposed to apply to everyone. And if you have something unique in your county, that's something that your county legislative body does. They don't pass law, but they pass ordinances and things like that. So, voting on laws of statewide impact. But then also we do a lot of work in what I call customer service. People have a problem, they call, and we try to solve the problem. Now, I'm part-time, and a lot of people forget this, that your state legislator by design is a part-time individual. Why is that? Because they think there's a lot of wisdom in people having to work for a living.
Right.
When you work for a living and you don't work for the government, I went on the Joe Biden rant a moment ago. Tell me what his profession was.
All he's ever been is
That's
a
always,
politician.
yeah, and that's
problem.
not what our state people cannot make a living doing that. We get paid $25,000 a year. We don't have any big expense account, and you're either independently wealthy or you're retired, or like me, you got to work.
Yeah.
And so thankfully we have a full-time office staff. And so in many instances, somebody calls the office and says, I need Senator Roberts to do X, Y, or Z. Or can Senator Roberts solve a problem? Can Senator Roberts make a phone call? Can Senator Roberts do this, that, or the other? And Janet says, no problem. We'll get you taken care of.
Right.
Okay. So then she goes and solves the problem.
But
And then she does what she did last night. She calls me last night and she said, by the way, you're going to be on Laverne's show. If she brings this up, she said, I took care of it.
Yeah.
So just don't want you to get caught by surprise.
That's
and
so
I'm
funny.
like, thanks for the heads up,
That's
but you know that I'm not going to sit here and act like I did something that I didn't do. So Janet did it.
Yeah.
And so in the world of state government, we've got about 260 entities that people can have problems with. It can be as big as the Department of Revenue. It can be as small as or obscure as I say, the Board of Polysomnography. But some of them are big, like the realtors or the Department of Education, or think about professions that get licensed, cosmetologists, barbers.
Yes.
So people will have problems. A license doesn't get renewed. Something doesn't get approved. Something doesn't get treated right. I've gotten this notice of an assessment that I already paid, with Department of Revenue, and they're telling me I owe money, and we can't undo things that are appropriate. We can't get special treatment for people.
No.
We can't say the laws don't apply for you. But if somebody made a mistake, or if somebody's dragging their feet, or somebody just needs to be prodded along, then maybe that's something we can do. And every one of these entities has someone who legislatively is kind of attached to us. In other words, it's we have our own little helpline, so to speak, or we have our own person to call. So if we have a problem with Department of Revenue, we have a very specific person to call. And interestingly enough, if you know the way this stuff works, a lot of the people that work in these legislative liaison capacities, so we have the executive branch, which administers everything. You have the legislative branch, which creates it. So the legislative liaison is someone who works for the governor. In other words, they work for Department of Revenue. They work for the Board of Polysomnography. They work for, because it's his job to run all the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to stay in his lane too, right? It's not his job to
Right.
create legislation. It's not his job to pass legislation. Everybody's saying to him right now, what are you doing about gun control? You know what his answer ought to be? Nothing. Because I am the executive of the state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
I don't have one single vote when it comes to passing a law.
Yeah.
And that's by design.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, for too many years, we've not taught the executive branch,
Right.
the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and people don't understand how these interact. And we all need to know our role and stay in our lane. So anyway, so we have these people that we can call.
Mm-hmm.
So when a customer, a constituent calls and says, I've got a problem with the Department of Revenue, and we listen, we can't sit here and say, well, we can fix that problem. What we can say is we know who to call
To have
to
them
see
look into it. Yeah.
if there's a solution here.
Right.
And Janet ends up making that call. And I joke all the time. I say, look, cut out the middleman, just call her directly. People will corner me at church or at a wedding,
Yeah.
or whatever, and say, hey, I've got this problem with whatever. And I don't want people to go, well, then what do you do if I'm supposed to call her? But, we've got full-time employees, and she's one of the best. And so She solved your problem.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about it until about 10 o'clock last night when she called me and said, oh, by the way.
Well, and see, the thing that I want people to understand is this is something anybody can do, and it's when you're dealing with. I've got a friend that's a director of a very large state department thing, and she's not a director; she's in audit, and nonetheless, when you talk about the mass of people that she works with, when you've got several people looking at something, they can interpret it differently, and human beings make mistakes. And so that's all we were dealing with was just a mistake had been made, but we didn't really know how to even approach it. And so, I called Janet. I was like, what do we do about this? And I mean, literally within hours, it was taken care of.
Well, let me tell you one that we can talk about because it does involve you.
Let me pause because we're about to be out of time, and I've got ads to do because we had so much fun talking with Chief Head. I'm going to get him. But anyway, I love him. But anyway, here we go.
Cumberland Connect, it's on the way.
Have you heard from them?
I got an email from them, and then I got another email saying, okay, just to clarify, there was an email that went out that I think. It needed its wording tweaked a little bit, but I'm sorry, I shouldn't even bring that up. But I'm so excited because I can see it out on the pole, and I know it's coming soon, and I can't wait. And after years of
being teased with high-speed internet,
I feel like I've got the old AOL dial-up connection sometimes, and so. I'm really looking forward to it.
My example is to everybody that they don't play favorites because while we had, our former director of schools was one of the first and Mayor Billy Vogel was one of the first because they live in served areas.
Yeah, right.
You live in an area that's right close into town. I only live, 5 miles from downtown. So I only got it first of the year. So, and here our state senator is going to be one of the last to get it. Yeah. But it's coming. And if you're a Cumberland Electric customer, you're going to have high-speed internet access too.
At a great price.
Oh my gosh.
At an unbelievable price.
I'm sure you'll be in the gig club with the rest of us.
They're just doing, it's amazing what they're doing.
It's
and
fun.
all of this is possible because we, Janice Bowling and several others, one of the senators kept pushing for these grants, and there's also federal money involved, but, just kind of looking at this and saying, you know what, we need to build out this infrastructure, and it wasn't, if you look out in Adams, out in Cedar Hill, where you've got a low population density, the people who do this didn't see any profit motive in serving
Comcast's like,
these
I'm
people.
not going out there. There's no money.
But here we are with Cumberland Connect. CEMC is a co-op. We all own it, and their goal is to serve their members. And we're very fortunate and to have CEMC and Meriwether Lewis and whoever else people whatever co-op we've got. We take for granted how reliable our utilities are. We take for granted how quickly they solve problems and the price they do it for.
You bet.
We have it made here in Tennessee. People who move here from California go, I can't believe my electric bill. Oh, what's wrong? Oh, no.
It's so,
I can't believe I can't. And you know what? And I called them and I talked to a person. I didn't get a call center, somewhere in the world, some other place in the world. And they came out the next day and fixed my problem,
It's amazing.
I love CEMC and I love I love our electrical co-op.
Thank you for doing the commercial for me. And they also have the Affordable Connectivity Program. I want to tag real quick. It provides qualifying households with monthly credit to help pay for internet services. If eligible, you could receive a credit of up to $30 per month toward broadband services. They've got packages, high-speed packages for just $30 per month. And then you can get, you'll join the gig club with the rest of us for $80. So Senator Kerry Roberts going to be in the gig club soon. Call 1-800-987-2362, 1-800-987-2362.
And given a state senator's salary, I may qualify for the financial
Oh, yeah, listen.
But I'm not going to do it.
Funny, you're funny. Or go to cumberlandconnect.org, cumberlandconnect.org. Tell them that you turn and Senator Roberts sent you, and let's just continue on. Again, we got a couple more spots we're going to have to do before the top of the hour. So we'll talk for 5 minutes, do one, and talk for 5 minutes and do another one.
We will.
We played that first half hour to get anything done.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, I have no qualms that state senators make $25,000 a year and state representatives because you don't want people doing it for a living.
No.
You really don't.
It'd be nice if they did that at the federal government.
You want people to do it for a while and then say, you know what, I need to, make some real money or something and move on and do something else. So I have no complaint. We joke about it a lot. The main thing I just want people to know is we're not like the fat cats in Washington.
No.
Because not only do they make $200,000 a year, but they also have a multi-million-dollar expense account. And we don't.
That
we don't
blows
have
my
any.
mind. Understanding, that's one of the things. While understanding politics more is helped me to understand how my representation works and that they're there to help me. I know, John Rose's office helping us with passports for some of our teens that had aged out of passports right before we went on mission trip last year. It was wonderful. All these things I didn't realize that was available to me, and I better understand it now. But also to then see from a federal level, the waste is just staggering.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we have what we have.
Yes,
on the
and
state
in
level.
fairness to
It's
them,
such a blessing.
Yeah, in fairness to them, their large expense account also covers their staff and their
I know.
offices out in the district. So I don't begrudge it at all.
But
because we want them to have offices in the district so you can, so you can get help from them, right?
Heavens, it's just it's an awful lot, and I would love to see us more be part time on the federal level. But we've built this monstrosity,
Or decentralize it from Washington.
Yeah.
There's
and they could vote. They don't have to
I
be
think
in
the biggest,
Washington. They don't have to be there.
In hindsight, one of the biggest mistakes we make was, and people don't even know this. People don't know this. Your United States Senator used to be appointed by your state General Assembly. And why was that important? Because it protected the rights of states and promoted the idea of federalism where we are a federation of states. And so that's lost now that it's a popular election. And if I could, people sometimes ask me if you could wave your magic wand and change one thing. That's one of the things I would change. Yeah, because that's probably more than any singular thing. That's what's led to the overwhelming growth of the federal government.
I agree completely.
And I don't think the growth of federal government is a good idea. Okay, special session.
Go. Yeah.
All right.
Talk about
So
that.
everybody's asking, are we going to have a special session on, you can tell where they're coming from based on how they ask it. Okay. So, are we going to have a special session on some common sense gun reform? Okay, that's what somebody on the left asked. Are we going to have a special session on red flag laws? That's what somebody on the right asked. Okay, and you know what nobody asked? You know what nobody asked? Here's what no one asked. I've yet to be asked this question. Are we going to have a special session on mental illness? Nobody asked that question.
Right.
I've yet to get asked that question.
And why? And explain to them why that's significant.
Because everybody who goes out and shoots a bunch of people are mentally ill.
Yes.
They all are. 100% of them. 100% are mentally ill. And so okay. So just to one person then, what do you mean when you say common sense gun reform? Tell me how far you go with it. And now there's a spectrum of where people are. So at the far end of the spectrum is, well, I think we just need to, turn in all our guns and forge them, melt them down, and beat them into plowshares, right? And just if we don't have any guns, then we don't have any problems. And that's one extreme view, and that's you would be. Look, I'm not trying to make a partisan statement, but that most of the people who feel that way are Democrats, and it's a large percentage. But it's more than you would imagine. The idea of a Second Amendment loving Democrat is a very small minority of the Democratic Party. On the right, so we'll pick on both here. We'll be equal opportunity. So on the right, it is firearms are a constitutional right, and keep your hands off my guns, and you don't have any right to, tell me what to do or whatever. Okay. And these two views collide because you can't reconcile them. You can't reconcile eliminating all guns with don't touch my guns. So that means if you pick a position in the middle, you've made a bunch of people on one side unhappy and a bunch of people on the other side unhappy. So there you go. From a very pragmatic standpoint, that's why nothing happens. And so instead, what some people try to do is they try and say, all right, so it's pretty much, a non-starter that what you think is common sense gun control, somebody else thinks is not. Here's what further complicates it. Let me use an analogy because I need the people on the left to get this loud and clear. Okay, the Tennessee Constitution says marriage is between a man and a woman. Period. That's what it says. Y'all voted on it just a few years ago. Not many years ago, it passed overwhelmingly in the state of Tennessee. It was a state constitutional amendment. Marriage is between a man and a woman. Period. End of discussion. That's what it says in the Tennessee Constitution. All right. Then the Supreme Court came along with the Obergefell ruling. And every liberal out there that supported gay marriage said, oh, look, the supremacy clause, this trumps anything that a state does, and now gay people can get married. So in the state of Tennessee, gay couples can get married. All right? The Constitution still says marriage is between man and woman. But ask any liberal out there, and what will they tell you? Well, the Supreme Court said. All right, so liberals, you need to listen for a moment. The Supreme Court says you can't infringe on somebody's right to own guns, according to the Bruin decision last fall. So if the Supreme Court is good enough for you for gay marriage, why is the Supreme Court not good enough for you with respect to guns? The Bruin decision last year makes virtually every single red flag law in America unconstitutional. You can't take somebody's guns away without due process first. There's your conundrum. So if you're going to sit here and cite the Supreme Court as God when it comes to all these other topics you like, then you need to stick with it and be consistent when there's a topic you don't like. There is no way in the world the state of Tennessee or any other state in America can pass a red flag law that will survive Bruin, period. There's our conundrum. That's why everybody's sitting here saying, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What's the legislation? Well, you know what? No one's been able to write a piece of legislation that will survive Bruin. It's that simple. It's like if we had a special session right now, if the governor called a special session and said, well, the Tennessee Constitution says marriage is between a man and a woman, so we're going to have a special session to make sure that marriage is between a man and a woman. There's not a single legislator out there that's going to come up with a bill that would survive in light of Obergefell. Okay?
Right.
It's the same principle here, that there is no piece of legislation that is going to happen. So all of these people that say, well, we need this. Well, we already have it. Do you realize in the state of Tennessee, it's not easy to buy a gun in the state of Tennessee? That surprises people. Now, it's easy to buy one illegally. We could have asked Chief a moment ago. We could have said, okay, off the record, microphones are off. Where in Springfield, Tennessee, can you go buy a gun in 5 minutes? And I bet you he could tell you.
Probably, because
he could probably tell you. And so in Nashville, they can tell you exactly where to go to buy a gun. That when you talk to law enforcement, they say you go to this corner, and here's how much cash you need, and you can have a gun. Okay. The state of Tennessee is right in the middle of the pack when it comes to gun laws. We're not the most lenient. We're not the most stringent. We're pretty much right in the middle of all 50 states. We're pretty much right in the middle. But you know what?
Realize it. Yeah.
People don't realize. But you know what? No one wants to talk about. They don't want to talk about mental illness.
I know.
And you know why? Because if you start talking about mental illness, then there's a certain group of legislators that have to start talking about what is mental illness. And then you get into all this discussion about gender dysphoria, transgenderism. And guess what? If you look at all of these people who are engaged in some of this violent activity, guess what you find out when you start peeling back a little bit? That they're really struggling with these issues. And from a mental health standpoint, no one wants to sit down and say, well, let's talk through this because this is, a mental illness. Instead, what they want to do is they want to say, oh, well, let's just pat you on the back and tell you that maybe you really are a boy and not a girl. And this is what no one wants to talk about. But if you start looking at, a lot of these acts of violence, and you start looking at the journey that some of these kids go through, they've got a lot of unresolved issues that are not they're not being well served from a mental health standpoint.
We've got to pause because I've got to get a couple of breaks in here real quick. Talking with Senator Kerry Roberts, and there's so much. Oh my goodness, I should have gotten a permission from ILU to do some extra time with you today, since I don't have to get to school yet. But we do want to pause and talk about Barry and Rebecca Ridges with the Exit Realty Garden Gate team. They are awesome folks that will help you either side of the real estate table. If you are coming to the table to buy or sell, if you are selling property, you need a good marketer that will come to the table and help you make sure people see your property in the absolute best light. So you will get top dollar for it. If you are, just don't have a clue what to do, how about getting somebody that has been studying real estate? Somebody like Rebecca, who's one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. She stays up to date on everything that she needs to know to make sure you are properly represented at the real estate table. They are a great couple. They're in Robertson County. They're up in Cross Plains, been there for 27 plus years. So they're one of us. They specialize in Robertson County properties, but they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky. Great friends, great realtors with the Exit Realty Garden Gate team. They'd love to even mentor you into real estate and let you be a part of the real estate community. They can help you do that. They both came out of other careers and can help you on that pathway. If you have some questions, you can get in touch with them at sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy, B-U-Y, B-U-Y, RobertsonCounty.com, B-U-Y, RobertsonCounty.com, or you can give Becky a call at 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425. Tell them you turned sent you. And as we continue on, we're just going to let Senator Roberts say goodbye. And then
I'm going to wrap this up by saying, here's the important thing. The important thing is this. So does that mean we don't tackle the issue? No, absolutely not. But here's the thing. You're talking about doing something that no other state has done. You're talking about creating a piece of legislation that no one else has created. You're talking about having a novel idea that nobody's figured out how to survive, the Bruin decision by the Supreme Court. So my point is this: you can't do that in 3 days.
No.
You can't do it in 3 weeks. You probably can't do it in 3 months. Does that mean we don't do anything? No, not at all. I mean, we've got some problems that we need to solve, and do we need to look at what we're doing? Of course we do. I'm not saying, well, let's just throw up our hands and not do anything. What I am saying is this: you're not going to accomplish anything with the circus, with the zoo, with whatever it's going to be on August 21st, when you got people bussed from all across America to protest, to yell, to scream, to whatever. And I just think it's a total waste. It's going to end up being a total waste of time.
Well,
I would say let's keep working on it, and let's deal with it when we go into session in January. So
it is on the calendar for the 21st.
It's not been called yet.
Okay.
Unless something happened this weekend while I was doing wedding stuff, the governor has yet to call the special session.
But that was what it was tentatively set for.
That's what he marked it on the calendar. But
okay, but it hasn't been called for. So if it were to happen, it'll happen before you come back in here, because we'll have you back in on the fourth Monday. So right, and so we'll talk. If there's any reason why you need to come back on, let me know, and we'll get you back in here and talk more.
I just sound so negative, and I don't mean to sound negative, but look. People have to understand, if you're going to sit here and let the Supreme Court interpret these things and say, well, got to live with that, then be consistent.
Yeah, and I'd rather them not interpret any of it. And let's get back to a states' rights issue.
You know what?
I have dreams.
This whole concept of, look, people forget. They don't know what the Constitution is. They don't know what the Constitution says. They don't understand the federal government was put in a box and said, you can do this, that, and the other. And so was the judicial branch. Yeah. And so we all have our roles. We're supposed to stay in our lane, and we don't.
Yeah.
And then when you don't do that, this whole experiment in self-governance collapses, and you have things like you have today, where you have federal agencies weaponized to go after political opponents. And folks, listen, if you don't like Donald Trump, that's fine. If you think he's a horrible human being, that's fine. But for goodness sakes, would you please be alarmed at how all these acronym organizations are being politicized to go after political opposition? That's what happens in a third world country.
Yeah, it is.
That should not happen in the United States. Mm-hmm. Well, he broke a law. Well, he did this. Well, he did that. Okay, take a deep breath and tell me what law he broke.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's a there are when you dig a little bit deeper, what you see are just how flimsy some of these things are. When all is said and done, he's not going to go to jail. And when all is said and done, whatever guilty verdict happens, these prosecutors shop their venue. They get the judge they want to get. They get the guilty verdict, and guess what? It's going to get overturned on appeal, and he's not going to go to jail. And when all is said and done, it's going to be a colossal waste of time.
And it's a political circus is all in the world it is. And with that, we are over time, and I've got to say hello to. I've got to remind y'all.
Love you. Talk to you later on. I'm gonna let you do this without me, so we'll talk soon.
Okay, I love you. I'll talk to you later, Kerry. Thank you, Senator Kerry Roberts in the house with us. And as he makes his exit, I want to talk about Highland Rim Speedway. Very important stuff, because Saturday night, those storms that Kerry was talking about that came through during his daughter's wedding also postponed the race at Highland. Well, and I say Highland Rim Speedway, it's Veterans Motorplex. But if you want to follow them on social media, it's important that you go to Highland Rim Speedway, because that's where you're going to find out all about the schedule. If there's anything going on that happens to change their plans, they put up about the rain out on social media at the Highland Rim Speedway Facebook page. Now, what Jerry says is hold on to your armbands. If you've already gotten paid for, you can still come to the races, and that's going to be Saturday night. They've got their races, everything that they had planned for this past Saturday night, they've moved to next Saturday night. So get ready for it. But the best place to find out everything that's happening at Veterans Motorplex is following Highland Rim Speedway, and you're going to get all the information about the rain out Saturday night. They're moving it to this Saturday night. Don't forget, too, that if you have not been to the races in a while and you want to go, they have this on the back page of the Let's Talk Trash magazine that came out at the end of the school year last year. You can still find a few of them around. It's a $40 value. It can get up to 6 kids and 2 adults in for free with that back page. Great stuff happening. This is all happening at 6801 Kelly Willis Road in Greenbrier, 6801 Kelly Willis Road in Greenbrier. You can give them a call at 615-643-8725, 615-643-8725. Please let them know that you turn attention. Thank you for joining me for today for One Street Over. God bless. We'll talk to you tomorrow. This is 1100 WSGI.